And over the past few weeks, we've grieved together as the Black community has endured more senseless acts of racial terror and violence. At YouTube, we believe Black lives matter, and we all need to do more to dismantle systemic racism. We're committed to doing better as a platform to center and amplify Black voices and perspectives. And we're working to ensure Black users, artists, and creators can share their stories and be protected from hateful, white supremacist, and bullying content. We know there is much more work for all of us.
So real quick, Black women are the only organisms on Earth that possess the mitochondrial DNA that has all of the variations possible for every single kind of different human being on this earth. The African, the albino, the European, the Middle Eastern. When the DNA of a Black woman mutates, all other kinds of human beings come about. Go ahead and research this topic. It's called the Eve gene, and it's only found in Black women. Sorry, but Black women are actually the manifestation of God.
Good afternoon. This is Rudolf from Germany. I am addressing today specifically Afro-American people. I might be probably the first white man, Aryan German man, who is admitting something to you. I took a long time to think about this video which I'm showing you, a very short one, about the white race. Many of you dark-skinned people, in America mainly, have had a suspicion for a very long time. White people are not really human. And this suspicion has been around for a long, long time. And like any suspicion which is around for a long, long time, there is a little bit of truth to it. I want to admit today to you that white people originating from Northern Europe are called not aliens, they are called Aryans. Sorry about that, my brain don't function so well today. These white people are not really human from this earth like Black people are, Indian people are, Asian people are. Yes, they are all humans. We white people are actually a minority, and we are, let's face the truth, also called the tall whites. Not all of us are tall, not all of us are completely white, but in general that's what it is. And as some of you may know, the tall whites are not really earthly human, but we're coming out of space, out of another galaxy. We are not human as the rest of the human race. We came here from another star, we white people, in order to control the world. We white people all have a secret code, a secret language under each other. We know, no matter how nice we pretend to be, we all stick together in order to control the other races, particularly the Black race. And I am feeling so bad about it by now that I had to speak out here on this video and admit it. White people are not human. White people, including myself, all stick together, know the truth which they do not want to admit to you. White people are out of space. We come from another galaxy. We all know our home planet, which we don't want to reveal because we don't want to be attacked. And we have no good intention with you. We do not want to share our wealth with you. We do not want to share our knowledge with you. You have been mistreated hundreds of years ago, and this is very, very bad. And your chances in life, to the most of you, many of you have no chance in life. You can sit and wait for work on a corner with your other friends, and work will never arrive to you. It's very, very hard, I know. And we rich people, we white people, we alien people don't want to share what we have with you, so you have a good time. This is my testimony in public. White people are from another planet.
Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News Report. Black Minds News is the report. Articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, website, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information at the creator of the universe, be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we, today's children, offspring, and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what the motto of my show is? I'm never gonna tell you what I heard. I'm only gonna tell you what I know. Today's date is July 20th, 2020. The return of another episode, Black Minds News Report. Well, so much has happened since the last time I did a show. One thing that has been on the minds and hearts and ears and spirit is what took place after the interview with Nick Cannon and Professor Griff. The ripple effect has gone across, and the stances that was taken, it seemed that people had to renege. So I decided to say that I'm going to do a show on the fact that maybe the issue is when we stand on something and we talk about something, maybe it's because we can't tell the truth, right? Maybe it's not about telling the truth. And we assume that's what it was about. So I decided today I was going ahead and say here, attacking black truths as lies. So stay tuned as we get into this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam, my subscribers, my day ones. What's good, fam? How y'all doing, each and every one of you? Hope everything is fine with you. And congratulations to my new subscribers, or at least those who have hit that notification bell saying that they want to be notified every time that we do decide to go ahead and drop one of these videos. So, again, I want to thank each and every one of you. Tip our hats off to you. Black Minds News welcome you to the new family as a Black Minds News subscriber. And passerby, you happen to click on that thumbnail based on the simple fact that you've seen the thumbnail or the title in itself. We always got a grand opening over here. Go down the aisle, see some things you might happen to like, happen to see some things that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. Well, we've been in the business since 2012, closing in on another anniversary. How is it possible that the channel who can't get past 100 views, no matter how many consecutive videos we drop, no matter what time we upload, no matter, you get what I'm saying? That we are, as many people try to say, they shadow banned, and that we are totally out of the system. So we always going to promote the fact that we talking about those things that you see in the beginning, because again, we're going to get in line eventually. So anyway, welcome to the Black Minds News Show. And again, today's topic is about attacking black truth as lies. Let me say that again, attacking black truth as lies. Now, what do you mean by that, Mr. Blow Your Mind? Well, what I'm saying is, it's like when every time that we, BADOS, which is Black American Descendant of Slaves, and others who are fall into the family tree of what they want to say Africans and so forth, as Rudolph say, that you have the notion to, think that something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you kind of have the, notion that there was something there. Well, that's what it seems like to me. It seems that when we start telling truths that are our truths, if there's no stamp of approval by what we just say the dominant society, the society who's in control and institutions, that it cannot be validated. So this show here is to get into the fact about how black truths end up becoming lies, and people try to stand on a black truth or black truths and come to find out that they have to renege, apologize for what they believe to be true. They recite the publications and authors and professors and teachers, but if it's not going with the status quo, we don't validate it. So is there a difference between black truths and the truth, or is there black truths, other truths, and then there's the truth, right? So what I want to do in this particular show is I want to try to go across some of the things that we say are truths, but somehow you could be confused if you're not, let's say, you are not girded up in the foundation of what you believe. I ain't gonna say we're gonna believe, because see, believing is where you get caught up about what you know, right? I ain't gonna tell you what I heard. I'm gonna tell you what I know. And so some people can be convinced that what they thought they knew, or what they thought they believe and know to be the truth, can be convinced to come out of that truth, regardless to the proof that could be substantiated with evidence, whether it be tangible, whether it be, just the words in itself, pictures and everything else, that other people can convince you that your truth is not the truth. So how about this, right? As you seen in the beginning, right? Let's put it like this, right? If you, again, hopefully you didn't skip that part. I'm pretty sure sometimes some people probably say, I don't want to go through the whole intro, so I'll go ahead and skip. But let's say if you should have skipped, right? And in the beginning, there was a young lady that I had seen that did a video. And in that video, she talked about something that I see that she, as a black woman, has taken pride in what she stated. Now, in the realm of what she's talking about, that would be considered like science, right? Right? Would that be considered like science? Right? We talk about the Eve gene. You heard that sister. She came in there and she was like, the Eve gene, right? Right? She came in with the Eve gene, right? And told you that, the mitochondrial DNA is found in all other species, and that it only found in the black woman. And she took pride in that information that she stated, right? She was glowing with the truth that she found. And again, she's taken what has been put out here as a truth, right? And see, and that's the thing is, black people, based on, again, different levels of economics of families that we come from, some they say can come out of silver spoon, some come upper class, and so forth. And so those who are on the lower tiers, who have to get their education from a public school, and public school systems are funded by the tax base in the community that you live in. And if you live in a community where black people do not own to put the taxes from their properties into the school, and that you live in areas that may be owned by other people who take that tax money out and put it into their communities, then that means that your school may not be as up to date as other schools, because they can allocate them taxes, so they certain things that they want to make sure that their schools have. So that means that the children who come out of these particular schools can have a disadvantage, not because they don't have the intelligence or the ability to learn, or they don't attend and go to school. They just have outdated, let's say, texts, materials, right? Curriculum, right? And so here they are living in the 21st century and might be taught a 20th century education. So what end up happening a lot of the times is that when you have this inquisitive aspect to your spirit and you want to know certain things, you move, you go about and you try to seek for that kind of information that you have an interest in. And when you do that, you can be self-taught by reading, right? Delving deeper, reading all publications, may even go to certain people who may be in that field of profession to get some, firsthand knowledge, attend classes, seminars, a whole lot of things that a person can get themselves involved trying to learn certain aspects about, a particular field that they've got an interest in. So let me show you this here, right? So you see on your screen there, it says, age confirmed for Eve, mother of all humans, right? Age confirmed for Eve, mother of all humans, right? And I'm going here because, again, let's just say, for instance, you heard the sister. I don't know the sister. I seen the video, decided it would be appropriate for her to be on this particular show or this particular topic, because there's several things, again, as the title talks about, black truths, and how our black truths somehow end up becoming lies. And so they talk about, now this came out in 2010, and it talks about a maternal ancestor to all living humans called mitochondrial Eve, likely lived about 200,000 years ago. At roughly the same time, anatomically, modern humans are believed to have emerged. A new review study confirms, right? So, okay. Let's say the results are based on analyzing of the mitochondrial DNA found in the energy producing centers of cells. Mitochondrial DNA is only passed down the maternal line, can be traced back to one woman. Now it says, however, this doesn't mean she was the first modern woman. Rather, it indicates that only her descendants survive to the present day. Now you just seen that sister on there, what she just said, and those who've been around remember that there was I think it was a Time magazine when they had the Black Adam and a Black Eve. And, they put Adam and Eve on Time magazine as being the first people on the planet, right? Now, time has elapsed. Science is ever changing, ever learning, ever more evidence being revealed, right? But based on what that sister, her understanding and what she believed to know, And what has been said and regurgitated out here, you heard what she said. I don't know. Do I need to play it again? Maybe I'll play it one more again. Should we play it one more again? Play it one more again. Play that one more again. Play it one more again.
And over the past few weeks, we've grieved together as the Black community has endured more senseless acts of racial terror and violence. At YouTube, we believe Black lives matter, and we all need to do more to dismantle systemic racism. We're committed to doing better as a platform to center and amplify Black voices and perspectives. And we're working to ensure Black users, artists, and creators can share their stories and be protected from hateful, white supremacist, and bullying content. We know there is much more work for all of us.
So real quick, Black women are the only organisms on Earth that possess the mitochondrial DNA that has all of the variations possible for every single kind of different human being on this earth. The African, the albino, the European, the Middle Eastern. When the DNA of a Black woman mutates, all other kinds of human beings come about. Go ahead and research this topic. It's called the Eve gene, and it's only found in Black women. Sorry, but Black women are actually the manifestation of God.
So, you heard that, right? You heard that sister and what she said, right? Okay. Now, based on the glow, based on the information that she said, what she said, is it true? Right? Was it told at one particular time that it is what she stated? And the time has now that changed, right? So, they said there's always some other females that predated mitochondria Eve, right? They said there's always other females. Now, what do you mean by that, right? They say, there's other females that predated her, right? They said, well, whose DNA didn't make it up to the modernity? So they died off, right? So this is their explanation as to, well, yes, what she said might be true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you might just be the first. There are other ones that just somehow either they didn't get to the modernity aspect or we have not found or discovered them yet. But based on you being found first, we can say that, right? And so this Marquette Kimmel, he's a professor of statistics at the Rice University. He says, so the age of the mitochondria Eve is always less than the age of the true first female modern human, right? Now, these are the informations that, again, our people take based on the institutions who create this and do the research and excavating and put out, whether it be peer review and things like that and science. And, okay, they put this stuff out, and what ended up happening is that people will get information and they will recite, right? And then it was at times where people use this as this is solid information and this is what it is, right? And it talks about that molecular clock, right? And they say while most of an organism of DNA is contained in the nuclei of its cells, mitochondria also contains genetic materials, but much less of it, making it easier to analyze. The mitochondrial DNA contains a region that changes rapidly and can provide a sort of molecular clock calibrated to times compared to of the age of modern humanity, making it a favorable for population geneticists, right? Or population geneticists, right? And it goes on and talks about how researchers compare the estimate products to about 10 genetic models. And this was intended to determine when the mitochondrial Eve lived. And so they say they started with data on the mitochondrial DNA previously collected from random blood donors. So random blood donors checked the DNA, and then they traced it back, right? Now, according, they say that the scientists know the average rate of mutations. So they can look at the genetic variations among pairs of individuals to see whether their lineage diverge, but the equation becomes more complicated, right? But they end up, telling you they know what they're telling you, right? So the question becomes, why put out unfinished, determined science, right, as a truth until you actually get to the answer, right? It's like E equals MC squared, but you're going to say, here's the answer. Let's say the answer is E equals Irv's answer is MC, which is Messiah Christ, second time returning. Okay, let's just say that's what that is. I made that up, but anyway, right? Let's just say E equals MC squared to the second degree is Irv's answer is the Messiah Christ, second time around, right? Okay. But then let's say I said that and they say, well, damn, you know what, Mr. Blows Your Mind, just answer equals MC squared, right? No damn well they ain't gonna do that because it's black, right? But anyway, they just said that's the answer to it. But then later it's gonna come to find out that that's not what it is, right? Because again, the answer sometimes may not be fitting for somebody else. Remember this point. Sometimes the answer is not sufficient or want it to be determined that to be. So we're going to keep searching for another answer for something that we want it to be. All right. And so they also talk about how mutation producing divergence. Some of these divergence is lost because of random events that occur in some populations that become extinct. So you don't actually get them. So it's like survival of the fittest, right? That one that end up surviving, you're only going to end up be getting that genetic, right? Those DNA and be able to use that. So that doesn't necessarily mean in the way that they're trying to determine this, that yes, this might be, and we might have said it was the black woman, but we have some other ways of looking at this that it may not have been you, but right now we're going to give it to you, right? And so they say this is the ancient modern human dispersed, right? And how these groups settled, grew, while others became extinct. So what they're saying is, okay, the one that we found, right? The one that we found, we use that, but there's several other different possibilities of other existing genetic mitochondrial DNA that probably could have been, but they died out. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because you are the one that we have to find. And then somehow when we trace this mitochondrial DNA, it does match in all the humans today. But okay, right there, don't they answer it? They don't answer it. Oh, okay. But anyway. And so they talk about how modern make the models that they make. They have different assumptions about the growth and extinction rate, right? The potential to change the estimate of the mitochondrial Eve age, right? And researchers have found that, one type of the model makes a less realistic but more manageable assumption that the human population has increased at smooth and nearly exponential rates, and another more realistic and technically challenging types of models assume that human population has growth and okay, so they go on to all this variations of saying that there's more, could be more possibility. It don't have to necessarily be this. I know this would end up being, and we being who we are, I don't know if we can actually take that, right? I know that's what we said, but we're still in quest of trying to disprove that, even though this is what we have come to find to determine. But I think we don't really want to go with this. We actually want to go with something else. But okay, so now you see your attitude, you're gloating, you're acting as like, you know what I'm saying, like there was nobody else. Okay, you're black, and okay, all right. So that's what happens, right? You become first, And because you are first, it's something about winning, right? There's something about when you win and you're in first place, you won championships. Those who know what it feels like, you've done won championships, right? You're in the top of the heap. Number one, there is none above that, right? All looking up to you. But some people can't be in that position because they can't believe what they found, right? They can't believe it. So what you end up having is you have something like this end up happening, right? They'll come back and then they'll say this. No, mitochondrial Eve is not the first female in a species. See? So one, you come out and you say that, okay, you know what? It was Eve, and this is what we came. We gave you all these other scenarios as to the possibilities of other ways this could have been in the equation. Could have been other people. They could have been white, or but they died off, and somehow we couldn't find the mitochondrial DNA, and so the only thing we end up finding, and this is what we determined. But we kind of say that there's a possibility there could be others. So now they saying no, right? And this came out of Smithsonian, right? They came up with this, no, a mitochondrial Eve is not the first female in species. So now you have two different scenarios about something that you said originally, or the research of the individual found this information that is posted on the internet, is posted in Wikipedia and things like that, and they taken that information as a truth. And now they say it, but then in one sense they say, yes, that was, but no, it's not. Okay, so what ended up happening? You leaving people confused, right? You leave people confused. So there is no certainty when they're doing things, right? That's basically what it comes out. Well, yeah, we answer the question, but it's not quite the answer we wanted. So we're going to kind of leave an asterisk to that. Is like, yeah, you got it, but we're still trying to find the other missing piece that's going to probably take you out of that. We don't really want you in that position as being the first. That's what found science and the mitochondrial DNA, and then what we wrote and our research that it do connect to all the modern humans, but maybe there's a reason for that, right? So again, sister took the information. That's what you said. So by her saying it, does that make her truth wrong? Does that make her wrong? Because she said that. Okay? So remember, that's what we're going on. The show is based on attacking black truth as lies. Like anytime when we say something, and it comes to determine that it's us, other people are going to find other ways to shift that truth and say, you know what? Wait a minute. Hold on. That's not the answer, right? So let me show you this here. And let me move on to the next thing, all right? So that was what that was, right? Mitochondria D, the sister said that. And she said, yeah, I said it, right? Okay? But no, sister, they said, no, you got to hold that. You can hold it. Right now you can say that, but we got an asterisk to it. Not quite, okay? All right, so check this out, and we'll be right back. Check this out.
And after recent controversy, President Trump defended the right to display the Confederate flag.
With me, it's freedom of speech. Very simple. Like it, don't like it, it's freedom of speech.
Would you be comfortable with your supporters displaying the Confederate battle flag at political events?
You know, it depends on what your definition is, but I am comfortable with freedom of speech. It's very simple.
You understand why the flag is a painful symbol for many people, because it's a reminder of slavery.
Well, people love it, and I know people that like the Confederate flag, and they're not thinking about slavery. I look at NASCAR. You go to NASCAR, you had those flags all over the place. They stopped it. I just think it's freedom of speech, whether it's Confederate flags or Black Lives Matter or anything else you want to talk about. It's freedom of speech.
Let's talk about George Floyd. You said George Floyd's death was a terrible thing.
Terrible.
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way, more white people.
Research suggests that black people are about 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. But the overall number of white people killed is higher because white people make up a larger percentage of the
On the president's executive order on police reform, let's bring in Rudy Giuliani, former New York City mayor and President Trump's attorney. Mr. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Fantastic. Clearly, the president in the Rose Garden yesterday made clear we need to root out the bad cops or we need to stop senseless violence. But I also remember on 9/11 when you arrived at Ground Zero, debris was falling, the towers were burning, people were literally leaping to their deaths so that they would have a sudden death rather than waiting to be burned alive. What goes through your mind when you hear some people in this country say, defund the police?
Well, I mean, that's a terrible, terrible overreaction to what's been created as a almost a hysterical reaction to a single incident, and not just a single incident, some incidents of police wrongdoing, police where they actually are unjustified in the use of force. But as the president pointed out, and as we all know, I think logically, 99%, if not more, of the police contact with the public is appropriate. Either no use of force, or in many, many cases, a use of force to save their lives. After all, more police officers are shot and killed by blacks than police officers shoot and kill African Americans. The unarmed shootings, which are the ones that are the troublesome ones, there are only 9 of them against blacks, 20 against whites in 2019. So that'll give you a sense. Meanwhile, there were 9,000 murders of blacks, 7,500 of which were black on black.
So the president's trying to deal with that. You're citing the statistics. You're trying to find a balance. Go ahead, quick. That's
absolutely right. That is not to minimize the fact that those 9 incidents or more are very serious. And what he's recommended is the first time anyone's ever dealt with it. I mean, Obama had years and Biden years to deal with this and did not. And they had some terrible incidents. So this is a very, very good idea.
You mentioned
to have
let me just jump in.
Have a standard, to have accountability, to have a way of reviewing it. We've never had it before. And to have a base of knowledge from which we can get an idea of, well, how big.
So we are back, right? We back, right? So you just got to see there, you seen where Donald Trump had the interview. And we're talking about, really, it was about really whether the flag being offensive, right? And that, and the question was, why is still black people being killed by police? But he went on and said, no, white people are being killed more. That's absurd to say that black people are being killed more by police. And then they showed you the statistics that there was from 2013 through 2017 that there was 2,353 white people probably killed by police versus the 1,487. Now there's about a difference about what is that? About 900, about 900, about like little less than 900, about 800 something, right? The difference in killings. And so you talked about the Confederate flag, right? And so what you heard the President Donald Trump said is he talked about freedom of speech. Now, freedom of speech is, a principle that supports the freedom of individuals or community to articulate their opinions, the ideas without fear of retaliation, censorship, or legal sanction. The term freedom of expression is sometimes used synonymously, but includes any act of seeking, receiving, and imparting information or ideas, regardless of the medium used. They also talk about that freedom of expression is recognized as a human right under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and recognized in the International Human Rights Law and the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. And that Article 19 of the UDHR, which is, again, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, states that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference, and everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally in writing or in print or in the form of art or through any other media of his or her choice. The version of Article 19 in the ICCPR later amends this by stating that the exercise of these rights carries special duties and responsibilities and may therefore be subject to certain restrictions when necessary of respect of the rights of reputation of others or for the protection of national security or public order, right? Or public health or morals. Okay. So freedom of speech is, a lot of people like to use that. And we just heard the President of the United States say that freedom of speech. Now, the question was asked, are black people killed more by police in this country? And the answer is still going to be yes. Now, you say, well, wait a minute, Mr. Bowman, I just heard you say 2,353 to 1,487. Now, in the numbers, there may be more. But let's look at it from the percentage wise, right? If you say that this other group has over 120, 130, 150 million people, right? Versus another group that might be 40 million people. So they're almost 4 times bigger than them, right? So how does a group that is 4 times smaller have a number of 900 less than a group that is 4 times bigger, right? And so are you saying even though the number is bigger that a group that's smaller, whose number is almost equivalent to the number of this group that's 4 times bigger, that that's not something of alarm to this other group? Or is that you're able to say freedom of speech to be able to say, that's what I said, I didn't have to prove it, but I said it, right? I can just say, well, the numbers show that they're bigger. But is that true though? Right? And then, some people will take that and run with it and then recite it and say what? To black people, oh, no, white people are getting killed more and more, right? There's a lot of other parts of the stats that needs to be unfolded too. Are those in situations of robbery, drug related? Is it white gang related? You get what I'm saying? There's other statistics and stats and columns that need to be just other than just throwing the numbers. And a lot of people are getting misconstrued that black people sit and advocate on every case when somebody has that kind of encounter that they're losing their lives. We don't. It is the unarmed. And then talking about the unarmed, and you heard Rudy Giuliani said what he said. Again, using his freedom of speech because his stats don't back up what he says, but he was able to say that, right? Using his freedom of speech. Remember, freedom of speech is really just the principle, for an individual community to articulate their opinions and ideas without fear of retaliation, right? You just say it. You didn't have nothing to substantiate it, but you said it. And when you said it, you said that black men kill cops more than cops killing them, right? So, so I guess the other stat would have been how many can you say that the group that you said that does that, what are the numbers and what is the other numbers in comparison to it? But that's his freedom of speech to say that, right? He can say that and can be wrong as all get out, right? So you have two different truths here. There's a truth that's being espoused by people who say that, no, black people, your truth is lies. Your truth is lies. You're not getting killed like that. White people are. So the question becomes, white folks that should happen to hear me, if you was getting killed like how they say what we've done and try to get reform and enough shit was enough shit, if y'all been getting killed like that, how come it took for Black Lives Matter to get out there to get to what it is? Where was y'all at out there since y'all was getting killed more than black people at? So are we to really believe that? Do we really think that they was out here getting killed like that and then they just sat there and did nothing? Is that doesn't happen? It doesn't happen to, white folks? Y'all got so lackadaisical and soft that y'all, the only time y'all get riled up is when they get about black people, right? So, they say what they say, right? You able to say that, but that don't necessarily make it so. So what you have is you have two different truths. There's white truth and then there's the black truth. So somebody can there be two truths? Can there be two truths? Somebody got to be right and somebody got to be wrong, right? That's how it normally works, right? Somebody right, somebody wrong, right? You can have a paper in school and a teacher, depending on what type of teacher, she can find some brownie points and not totally give you everything wrong. She give you a couple points for spelling, punctuation, and all that other stuff. But in this case, it's right. There's somebody's right and there's somebody wrong. But it seems like nobody wants black people truth to be right. It has to be a lie. And so we have to always find a way to what? Undermine it, right? Because that makes somebody guilty if you guys are right. And that's what this is about. If you're right, then somebody's wrong. And then that means somebody is guilty, lying, cheating, stealing, whatever it might be, right? So we have to look at this, right? We got to look at this because this is a true hidden subliminal in this country. Until there was cameras, right? Think about it. When there was no all-seeing eye catching a lot of these videos that we are now seeing on the regular, if there wasn't for no camera, we would just be lying about all the situations that we've been talking about. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? We would just be wrong, right? We'd just be black truth just lying. Ooh, those black people sure lie. Like they always talking about the police, huh? Everybody innocent, everybody. But now that the camera is there to capture it, there's still a rebuttal. There's still a fine print. It's not quite what you see. There was more to it, right? All right. So that's what they say, right? So, I don't. Should I go on there? I should have went there, right? Wait, man, we should have went there. Let me see if we can go ahead and throw that up in there, because, so based on all that done took place, a lot done took place, and so this here, I'm gonna do this for the sake of this, because this here is the beginning. As when you look at spiritually, that what was said here kind of moved the yardstick, and then another situation came after that, and it's like, okay, this might be bigger than people might realize it is, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you back to when this story here broke, right? I'm going to take you back to when this story here broke, and then I'm going to show you where I'm going with this from here, okay? Check this out. Be right back.
And here's what's happening in Eagle under fire. Wide receiver Deshaun Jackson posts anti-Semitic content on social media, and the reaction is utter outrage and condemnation. This is Eyewitness News at 6, and we are streaming live on CBS 10 Philly. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington. Jackson has apologized, but is it too late or too little too late? His own team condemns his actions. Pat Gallen has been on this story all day, and he has more now on Jackson's apology and what the Eagles have to say.
DeSean Jackson has been working out in Florida with other Eagles players preparing for the upcoming NFL season. That might be on hold after he shared hateful speech via Instagram. Over the weekend, Jackson took to Instagram to promote messages and quotes that are purportedly linked to Adolf Hitler. Jackson also shared quotes to his 1 million plus followers from Louis Farrakhan, the leader of the Nation of Islam. Farrakhan has long been considered an anti-Semite by the Anti-Defamation League. After the initial backlash, Jackson backtracked by saying, in part, quote, "Anyone who feels I have hate towards the Jewish community took my post the wrong way." Late this morning, the Eagles released a statement announcing they have had conversations with DeSean and that his messages are, quote, "offensive, harmful, and absolutely appalling." But they have not made a decision on his future with the team, saying that they are continuing to evaluate the circumstances and will take appropriate action. DeSean went back to Instagram today to apologize for any hurt caused by his comments.
My post was definitely not intended for anybody of any race to feel any type of way, especially the Jewish community. When I posted what I posted, I definitely didn't mean it to the extent that you guys took it, and I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm, very apologetic.
His posts are so hurtful and dangerous.
Shira Goodman of the Anti-Defamation League of Philadelphia says DeSean needs to learn about why his posts are harmful.
If you think you've done something wrong, you need to take responsibility. You need to understand it. And we don't think that posting Hitler and Farrakhan demonstrates understanding of the damage and danger that hatreds of all kind, whatever ism you have, anti-Semitism, racism, what we're seeing a lot now during coronavirus, bias against the Asian American Pacific Islander community. All of those kinds of hates are extremely dangerous.
I spoke with former Eagles GM Joe Banner via text, and he declined to be interviewed, but he helped draft DeSean back in 2008. And Banner said via Twitter that it would be totally appropriate to consider cutting Jackson and that there should be a team meeting to discuss. For now, DeSean remains an Eagle, but a punishment could be forthcoming. I'm Pat Gallen, CBS 3 Eyewitness Sports.
So what do you think the Eagles should do? Was the apology enough, or should the Birds cut ties with the wide receiver? Share your thoughts on the CBS.
All right, so that was the incident that took place with DeSean Jackson, what he had posted. According, they highlighted when he was talking about what Hitler, what he said, and the accusation about extortion and all that, right? And DeSean Jackson said when he posted this was about inspiration, right? No one asked him what was he trying to inspire. So it was more of an insinuation. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that what had been posted, that a people can be affected and feel some kind of way based on that. That's not what I'm saying. But was he trying to, on this part here that you see, at the end of that sentence on that last highlighted part, lynching the children of Israel, right? Is that the part he was trying to inspire, he believed, of his people, right? He was saying, trying to tell that. Now, again, maybe somebody sent him the post. Instead of him doing you kind of see how I have that part cut off, he wanted to give it to it in this entirety. And maybe he didn't think about, how certain people were going to take that. But I guess if he wanted to give them the entirety of what was said, he had to give it to it in its fullness. And so he took the backlash on it, and, the more to that is to be, developed as time go on. But the question became so much as to black folks in America being the children of Israel, right? And again, black truth is a lie, right? Attacking black truths as lies. So what black people wanted to know is, sometimes they say, you can't choose the messenger. It's just the message. Now, we're going to cut out the aspect that would be considered offensive, but the inquisitive mind wants to know about that part there, about that children of Israel, right? That's what most people wanted to be like, okay, what is this children of Israel? What it has to do with we in here in the United States? And so, based on BADOS history and experience in this country, right? You know, what we endured in this country, what we still endure, that the words of that Bible had to become real to us in order for us to maintain and still be here to this present day, right? And a lot of black people have been raised, bred, trained, right, with the information that comes out of the Bible. So when it starts to have a conversation about the Bible, black people are pretty knowledgeable what's in the Bible. Now, I'm not going to say everybody have read the Bible from front to back. They, you can recollect the stories. They know certain things. You understand? But when it comes to that Bible and what people have read, they're very familiar with it. We as black people, right? We're very familiar with that. And so when somebody says, okay, that, as lately, and we'll get into that later, the question became about being Hebrews, right? But let me just show you this part here to show you what I mean when you see this here, right? When you see this here and being the children of Israel, people try to, I'm not even going to say, because I don't know who really has all this animosity about this. I don't know if it was just pertaining to just the Jewish people. I don't know if white people were offended with this. I don't know if other people were offended by it. We understand from the Jewish people's point, again, about they being accused of being extorting and dominating. We understand that. Okay. But again, the part here is the white citizens of America will be terrified to know that all this time they've been mistreating and discriminating and lynching the children of Israel. Now, it's been discredited that the person who they said this didn't say that, right? They say he didn't say that. And again, my question had become, yes, Deshaun Jackson can be held for the posting, right? But I think if there's going to be some misinformation, then I think it would have been incumbent on the people to go and figure out who's the author of the publication. And, when they talk about free speech, right, they also talk about that I think there's a part in there where they talk about, libel and things like that, right? There's part of your free speech where, it can be incitement, sedition, slander, right? And so the people who created that would be able to tell you where they got it. Now, I know word of mouth was that it came out of a website. And so that right there makes that not credible, because anybody can put anything on. But if you go to the author of the book, not talking about not a web page, but it comes out of a book, can the person who wrote the book tell you where they got it from, right? Now, again, this is not trying to build somebody up and trying to make them that there's somebody great. We're just saying are any of those words true, right? And black people have an inclination. Let's go back to what Rudolph from Germany said, that, especially those in Black America, he said you always had a notion, right? Well, black people got a notion that something about those words there resonate with us. Now, again, not everybody's into the Bible, and okay, right? But the Bible and black American descendants of slaves had an affinity ship because it was the first knowledge and the only thing that gave, other than what they lost as to coming here and losing tongue, language, culture. This became something new, and it had to become real to them because of what we were enduring. And so you turned something that, I even did the show where they talked about the slave Bible and how the Bible that they gave to our ancestors was set in a way so they could program them to be obedient, a better slave, and so on and so forth. Now, let me show you something, because again, black truths as lies, right? Attacking black truths as lies. So, some people will say that, maybe, your lack there of understanding and knowledge of a subject. And so with that being stated, then you need to come to somebody who knows more. So, but if we was to take the source of where that story comes from, right? We take the source of the story and go to it. What does it say, right? What does that say, right? So let me show you this. Let me go over here and let me show you something, right? Because, like I say, people want to attack black truths as lies, right? So if we was to go to the source of what it talked about in that page and talk about children of Israel, and then how people seem to, I'll talk about that more, we get into more of the show, but people will get upset. So if you was going to the scriptures and you seen this here, it says Revelation 1:14 and 15, and it says his hair and his hairs, his head and his hairs were like white, like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire, and at his feet like unto the fine brass, as if they were burned in a fires or a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Let me read that correctly. His head and hairs were white, like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now, do I need to have a PhD? Do I need a theologian degree? Or can I have a layman's understanding to understand what those words say? Now, whoever created that image there gave you the dichotomy to show you what somebody has proposed as, and according to what the scripture says, which one fits more likely to be true. Which one fits more to be true? So, but black people have had the one to the right as their truth, even though it says what it says in Revelation 1:14 and 15, right? Black people still took the one on the right as being truth until the focus on what had been said, and to look at what has been said and to see that does not match according to what you see, right? And so then you start hearing people talking about that Jesus was black, right? When they start realizing what that scripture said. Now, is this about race? Is this just trying to say no? No. Again, when it's about the truth, either it's going to be or it's not going to be. See, so the one on the right becomes less popular because of the words that is being stated, and that BADOS saying, well, based on them words that we didn't write them by. We didn't write that. Think about this. We didn't write them scriptures. We were told that some people who was in Egypt who were the scrolls who wrote this. So when they wrote this, did they not know what they wrote? You get what I'm saying? So the question becomes, you got two different truths here. Can you have two truths, even though what the words say versus what you see don't match? But they say disregard the words and go according to what we said. Right? Go according to what we say. So now what end up happening is attacking black truths as lies. So black people saying, wait a minute, but the scripture said, no, don't you worry about that. You just go with that picture we just gave you over there and everything will be okay. Right? Right? So, okay. So that black truth is a lie again, right? We lying about things that seem to be, shouldn't be lies. They should be, I mean, it shouldn't be like that. I mean, but that's how they told us, right? What about this? Do I got that in there? We don't got that in there, do we? Okay, we'll go back in there, right? Because I got another one. Okay, yeah, go to that one. So again, let's go with the same thing. So again, do I have to be a theologian? Do I have to be a scholar in order for what the words say directly, right? That I can't say that that's true, right? Go there. Wait, no, don't go there. Go, let's see. Go. Yeah, you can go there. There we go. Go there. All right. So let me show you this. Right? Let me show you this. Go there. Show that one. Okay. I'm not sure if y'all can see that good or not though, but we're gonna see. All right. So you see there on your screen, right? Now, according to this, it comes out of the version of the Bible, right? And they have different translations out of different Bibles that the same words in the same scriptures you can find accordingly. Now, on here it's talking about, then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, the skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow, right? Okay. Now, some people say, well, what is leprous, right? So we're going to go to over here, and it says study Bible over here on the right. It says, furthermore, the Lord said to Moses, put your hand inside your cloak. So he put his hand inside the cloak. And when he took it out, his hand was leprous, white as snow. Put your hand back inside your cloak, said the Lord. So Moses put his hand back inside his cloak. And when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his skin. Okay. So do I need to be a PhD to understand that? Do I need to be a theologian? Do I have to be a pope? You understand? Or black truth can't be nothing but more of a lie. Is that what black truth as a lie, right? So, okay, so you have to ask yourself, if Moses put his hand in his cloak, which is kind of like, say, inside your coat, right? Let's say your coat. And when he pulled it out, they said his hand was white as snow. All right, so let's just hypothetically say, and again, this is not about hate. This isn't about race. This is just, again, the topic is attacking black truth as lies. So again, it says that if he put his hand, put it into his coat and bring it out, and it come out and turn white as snow, question become, what color was his hand before he put it in there? So I don't know. Could you take this in a classroom with some kids who are not tainted with all, the world has, warped a lot of minds and programming? If you took this in a kindergarten amongst little kids and read that story and asked them, what would you think those kids would say? Kids are truthful, right? Right? But again, this ain't about nobody being ostracized. We just say, because again, what I'm trying to substantiate here is, it seems like there's an attack on black people's truths. Like if we say something true, it can't be true. Yet we can read the same stories, the same publications, but somehow there's a different interpretation, a different way somebody want to portray it, right? Right? Okay, so that's what that says, right? That's what that says. So again, is that considered to be a person of color whose name is Moses, right? Or maybe they're saying, well, maybe he was dark because he had a tan. And for God to reveal that, maybe, show him his hand being white. Okay. Teach his own. You can say what you need to say. That's fine. But if we take that literally, what is being said, what do you think that black people gonna say? They're going to interpret that. And like I said, if you took it amongst kids who are innocent, who ain't tainted, what you think the kids going to say? Right? What you think they going to say? So take another one out of the scriptures, right? And this is Numbers 12 and 10. My servant Moses is not so, who was faithful in all mine house. With him who will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in the dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall be, behold, wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. Now, we know Moses had put his hand in there and it turned white, right? So again, you have to ask yourself, then what was his, before his hand turned white as snow, then what was he prior before then? Now here's his sister, Miriam, same thing happening to her. So again, based on if you told some kids this story, will the story be what somebody else is saying, or is the truth just in the word? Or do I need somebody to interpret what I think it says, right? Is that what they're trying to say? That you can't read the words that you see and come with the interpretation. Again, it's kind of like law. They say you can read the law, but you need a lawyer so that they can understand it. So that's the same thing now. They're telling us that when words are being said, that we are not understanding. But again, these are black truths, and they got it right directly from the source, right? So, and again, there are different translations of the Bible, but they pretty much are similar as into what they all relate to each scripture and verse, right? And the gists and the points are all still there. Okay? Now, so when that page of Deshaun came out and the Israelites, these are some of the things that are in black people based on their knowledge of the Bible that makes, as he says, inspire. It's not about what was being said about other people. Now, again, they have the right to be upset and angry, but if he was inspired, nobody wanted to focus on that. So it's like, kind of like what they say when you go in court and you go before a judge, and they said if they find you to be one lie, then all the rest of your credibility is shot. So basically, that's what happened there, right? He's going to take the blunt of what he has to take for him reposting that. But the question still lingered out there as to, is what it says in there. Now, again, whether you want to discredit the person who said it is another thing, right? But does that make so? Because again, even when you read in the scriptures, there's some people in there who, if we take Jonah, right? Jonah did everything not to have to do what he had to do, but he went through a whole lot to get to that point that he ended up still had to do what he had to do anyway, right? So anyway, let me show you something else in here, right? So again, these are black truths that people will discredit us and say, yeah, it says that, but but they were black, but they weren't black like you, right? I seen one time, I don't know, was it Jimmy Stewart or Swagger, one of them, he wanted to tell the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. Jesus was black, but not black like you. See? Anything, but it can't be you. It's like everything in this country. Okay, you won't want to deal with you straight up. You got to always get some additive with it. Can't be straight. Don't want to deal with you straight, right? Okay. But again, the theme is attacking black truths as lies, right? So what about this too? We got another one in there? We might got another one in there, right? Before we move on. We might got another one. Maybe, do we got another one? Maybe we don't, huh? I thought we had another one in there. Thought we had another one. No, didn't have another one? I thought we had another one. There should be another one in there, right? Let's see. Okay, no, maybe it'll come back at the proper time. Okay, well, we can do that too. All right, so now again, so those are black truths that black people don't need somebody to validate for them, because they take exactly what is being said and apply to what they understand. Now, if anybody who's trying to take that and misconstrue it, then guess what? Somebody trying to divert the truth, right? Somebody trying to take you off of the truth, right? So what about this, right? You know, there's other black truths out here that we deal with a lot, right? What about something like, you know, when it comes to, you know, they try to say that we question everything and we don't trust people, right? And again, when we say certain things, it's like our truths can't be facts. They're just a black truth that we're going to trump your truth and we're going to tell you because you really don't understand and you really don't know, right? So let me show you this. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's see. Do we got that in there? Go ahead and do that one. All right. So let's say this, right? Okay. Everybody know about this, right? This is a black truth, right? The Tuskegee always looms in our minds. Some fear black Americans hardest hit by coronavirus may not get vaccine. Right? Is there a reason why black people don't trust when it comes to the AMA, American Medical Association, and the physicians? Based on what took place there, and that only came out in the 70s. Went 30 years. And guess what? It was happening in Mexico and other places as well. So I ain't going to sit here and tell you that it was only in that one particular place. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I believe that. Now, again, can I show and prove? But again, it's black truth. Some things with black truth that, like Rudolph say, you just kind of know. But other people don't want it to be a truth is because, again, somebody winneth and somebody loseth, right? So certain truths are not to be revealed because it reveals something else about somebody's agenda. So when that truth fell out, let's say at that particular time that there was our ancestors and family members who was talking about, hey man, these cats giving us stuff. Because like all of a sudden now, whoop-de-whoop-whoop. Because now again, when they write their history about it, they made it very like it was small. But they didn't tell you that it went on for 40 years. They tell you that these 300 and something people that they disclosed. We don't know how wide and that went. But when that broke and when that information came around and got in our minds, okay, like there's a book, A Medical Part-Time by Harriet Washington, and the stuff that she reveals in there. So in our DNA, we know, even though we can't put our finger on it, and a lot of stuff that you're not going to admit, but we just, black truths, right? That people will come and try to discredit us and make that what we believe to be a lie. And then when it finally come out, do you really go out your way to make amends for it? Or, well, okay, we apologize to the families. I think it's the nation, period. Not just the families direct, that the ones that you have record on. Because there's a lot of stuff that probably just will never be exposed and told the truth, right? Right? So what about this as well, right? So, you say, well, we don't trust you, right? We don't trust y'all because you ain't done right by us. Huh? Right? So let me show you this here. Where is that at? Where is that at? Okay. Right? Right? And they talking about this coronavirus, right? Remember when I did that story for those who've been around, right? When the CDC failed coronavirus tests were tainted with coronavirus. And then who were the numbers that they kept spewing out saying who dying the most, right? Right? But the truth fell out, right? Nobody want to admit that. They just say, well, people wrote that, but is that a lie? That they wrote that? Who broke that story, was that a lie? Or is that just a black truth? Is that just a black truth? Or was that really what it was? Right? So you got from Tuskegee till you hear this coming out here, right? Right? Tainted tests, right? Tainted tests. Damn, tainted. Really? I don't know, where's that at? There's another one too. Hold on. Where's the other one at? There's another one. And let's see, where's that at? Sorry about that, y'all. All right, I don't know what happened to that one. Oh, here it go. Right? So again, then they say vaccine will work only if trials include black participants, experts say. So based on the history, the black truth that we know that did not want to be revealed, that somehow got exposed, and because we have a black truth about how we don't trust you, right? It make it harder for us, right? In situations, right? But that's just a black truth. It's not really the truth. And no one's going to really admit to the fact. But you guys holding that to be true. Yeah, that says what it says. But no one's going to ever admit this. There's going to be no real honest truth to it. Okay, so let's put it like this. How about this? Since black people will say things like that, right? So it's not credible when black people say, well, wait a minute, man, you remember the Tuskegee experiment? Then they come out and talk about, man, you motherfuckers tainting the goddamn shit. The CDC says that shit. And then now y'all want to do trial tests, but black people not signing up. And y'all say, well, damn, if you don't take the damn trial, how we going to, because did y'all know, and maybe you might be new here, that vaccines are genetic specific or ethnic specific, right? So they have to do the trial so that they can have the vaccines that fits directly for your ethnicity. So guess what? If we're not participating with these trials and then they're going to sit here and talk about coming out with these vaccinations and giving it to us, they're going to say, hey, well, you guys didn't come out. We thought this would work on you. Right? It may work on you. Anyway, so here's black truth. But people would discredit it and say, because they haven't validated that that's a fake story. That was fake. Tuskegee, okay, we apologize to the family. That was it. It was just them, right? For 40 years, it was just them, okay? All right, well, okay, so when black people say you got a rebuttal, another answer for it. Okay. What about this here? Let's get some credibility here. Let's get somebody who y'all would say that he's a physician. He's also a politician. And he's white. He's a white man. Check this out. I'll be right back.
You just said, I think it's critically important. Can you repeat what you just said, please?
Well, last Friday, I received a 7-page document that sort of told me that if I had an 86-year-old patient that had pneumonia but was never tested for COVID-19, but sometime after she came down with pneumonia, we learned that she had been exposed to her son, who had no symptoms, but later on was identified with COVID-19, that it would be appropriate to diagnose on the death certificate COVID-19. Now, we've not done that. If someone has the pneumonia after, and it's in the middle of a flu epidemic, and I don't have a test on influenza, I don't diagnose influenza on the death certificate. I will say this elderly patient died of pneumonia.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates, whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person's death was caused by COVID-19? That does not sound right to me.
I went to the person in our office who does most of the death certificates over the last 10, 20 years, and I said, does this sound right? I had her look at the documents that I printed off, and she said, well, we've always been told that you always put down just facts. You don't put down any probabilities. You don't put any presumptions down. It's just what you know. And so this is concerning, and it actually gets to your point, Chris. When we start talking about the data that goes into the modeling, we have to ask ourselves a question. Are we being forthright? Are we sharing with the public? Minnesota, North Dakota, we don't need to be having it sugar-coated. We want to know what's going into your modeling.
So with that being said, why would they want to skew the number of deaths due to COVID-19?
Well, fear is a great way to control people, and I worry about that. I worry that sometimes we're so darn interested in just jazzing up.
Well, basically, he's pretty ticked off about it. He's also not happy to learn that he doesn't know who's accusing him. That's kind of how the system works. And for now, he just has to go through the process.
Every day we get up in the morning, we incur a risk of death.
To Senator Scott Jensen, aka Dr. Scott Jensen, the government's response to COVID-19 has been out of proportion to the risk.
The risk of death that we experience on a daily basis isn't really so dramatically changed as we might think because of COVID-19.
The Chaska Republican admits he's a burr in the saddle to those in charge of Minnesota's COVID response. Now he's certain his opinions have put him on the radar of the state medical board.
Could I be disciplined by the Board of Medical Practice?
In a viral Facebook video, Jensen went public with news that the Minnesota Board of Medical Practices sent him a letter telling him the board's investigating 2 complaints against him. One complaint was about an interview with a Fargo TV station, which Jensen said doctors were being told to classify deaths as COVID without proof. He later learned that's not the case in Minnesota.
This is a conversation that, quite frankly, Minnesota and America has to have. Using a regulatory board as a weapon to silence someone is wrong.
By law, the board must look into the complaints, but can't reveal to Jensen who filed them.
We want legislators to speak openly to the press. We want legislators asking tough questions in committees without fear that somehow there might be retaliation.
Now again, this retaliation is his theory for what happened here, but he has no way of knowing because by law, the medical board can't say who filed the complaint. Also by law, the medical board can't even tell us a complaint's been filed. The only reason we know is because Dr. Jensen, Senator Jensen, went public with this, and he says he's not going to hire a big legal team. He says he's going to play it the way he normally would with any other complaint, although this is unusual because this involves speech, not practicing with an actual patient.
All right, very, very interesting story that will.
Senator Scott Jensen, Carver County. This is one of the most important videos I've made, and one of the hardest. Frankly, it's been a very difficult decision to make whether I even wanted to do it. Less than a week ago, I was notified by the Board of Medical Practice in Minnesota that I was being investigated because of public statements I had made. They listed 2 allegations. They said I've been spreading misinformation in regards to the completion of death certificates on a news program, which happened to take place on April 7th. And you could find that one. It was with Chris Berg if you wanted to. And the other allegation was that I provided reckless advice in my willingness to compare COVID-19 and the flu. When I got this letter, I was ticked. And quite frankly, I leaned into the comfort and wisdom of my family to help them, let them talk me off the cliff. But doggone it, if this can happen to me, my view is it could happen to anybody. I mean, I've been a family doc for 40 years. I work hard, I love my patients, I do house calls, I've been medical director, I've held staff positions in hospitals to help make things work better. I've been in the Senate for 4 years and I've learned a lot. I've never had anything like this happen. Shoot a mile. 5 years ago I was named the Minnesota Family Doctor of the Year in Minnesota. And I get this because a couple people complained, and I don't get to know who those people are. I don't know if they're routinely in a political camp, if they're activists. I've gone online and looked at what it takes to complete a complaint that the Board of Medical Practice has to follow up on. It's a one-page deal. You can say what you want. You could be a huge donor for the other party, and I wouldn't get to know it. I wouldn't get to know if you live in my district. I don't get to know anything. I checked. So here I am. I've spent the better part of the last 6 days preparing a response. I understand how important the work is that the Board of Medical Practice does. I mean, physicians do screw up. Two of the big areas where physicians mess up is inappropriate sexual behavior, inappropriate self-medicating, certainly with opiates. But this is an odd position for me to be in, and I am just stunned. But I should have seen it coming, because I saw the threats on social media. I've seen them for the last 2 or 3 months. I've seen them come from physicians. I've seen them come from people in all walk of life. They didn't agree with me. They didn't like it, that I was trying to provide some context for the flu, for COVID-19. We've had some 35,000, 40,000 cases of COVID-19 in Minnesota thus far. According to the Department of Health people, that might translate into 10 times that many. And if it does translate into 10 times that many, that's 350,000 cases. But in 2018, we had more than 500,000 Minnesotans with the flu. When I say that, am I recklessly giving you advice regarding COVID-19 and the flu? Dr. Anthony Fauci has come out and compared them all the time. Dr. Mike Osterholm has. In terms of the death certificates, on April 3rd, I got an email from the Department of Health that said very clearly that we should report COVID-19 on death certificates if it is assumed to have caused or contributed. Well, that's not how we do death certificates. The official ICD-10 coding for April 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, during the time frame in question, says this: if the provider documents suspected, possible, probable, or inconclusive COVID-19, do not assign U07.1, which is COVID-19 disease. It says, assign a code explaining the reason for the encounter, such as fever, or a cough, or shortness of breath. That's what the official instructions say. So I get this on April 3rd. I end up inadvertently, sort of accidentally, running it up the flagpole with Chris Berg on April 7th. And what happens? The Department of Health, a few days later, comes out with a clarification. And then a few weeks later, they come out with another clarification. And I appreciate it. Fact of the matter is, I'm proud of the Department of Health in Minnesota for saying we are not going to list non-confirmed cases as deaths in Minnesota. We are going to put an asterisk by them, and we'll follow up on those later. But that's not what Pennsylvania was doing. That's why they had to subtract 200 patients from their COVID-19 death count. And Colorado did the same thing. New York went the other direction. New York said, we're having more deaths in a certain period than we normally have, so those deaths must be COVID-19. We just didn't pick them up. So never mind the testing. We're adding 3,700 to our total, and well, that does increase our total by 50%. So I'm in the position where I have to explain that I wasn't spreading misinformation. And I'm not being reckless when I talk about COVID-19 and influenza both being single-stranded RNA viruses that are respiratory in nature with similar symptoms and can be spread through particulate matter and aerosol transmission. I've got an 8-page document that I put together for the Board of Medical Practice, and let me be clear. They do important work, and I'm going to fully cooperate with them. I also have some 70 pages of attachments, and in the attachments, I've got the Pennsylvania Department of Health slashing their numbers by 201. I've got the Department of Health in Illinois, where one of the directors says that just because we put COVID-19 down on the death certificate as cause of death, that doesn't mean the patient died of COVID-19. She said that. Dr. Fauci, when he talks about influenza, he was the lead article in this New England Journal article, and he said this: if one assumes that the number of asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic cases for COVID-19 is several times as high as the number of reported cases, the case fatality rate may be considerably less than 1%. This suggests that the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal influenza. That was Dr. Fauci. And, oh, by the way, one of the contributing authors was Dr. Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC. Dr. Osterholm is a well-regarded epidemiologist, and he was saying this in the middle of March. He said, "The flu has become a pandemic more than once and has killed millions of people. It still exists today. Unfortunately, we now have on our hands something else, but it's caused by a coronavirus, which is acting very much like influenza." Folks, do I feel targeted? Yeah, I do. Do I know who my accusers are? No, I don't get to know. Could I be disciplined by the Board of Medical Practice? Well, sure I can. There's 2 allegations they're investigating. If I have been spreading misinformation, then what about Governor Walz and the Department of Health? Right around March 1st, we had a Department of Health memo that talked about the purpose of, if you will, some of the measures that would be taken to dampen, delay, and decrease the peak, to allow the accumulation of PPE and make sure that our hospital capacities weren't being overwhelmed. In that memo, they say what effective measures are: cover your mouth, don't go out if you have cough or fever, avoid touching your face, your eyes, or mouth, cover your mouth if you cough, wash your hands frequently, minimize outings, socially distance. But what did they say were not effective measures? They said wearing masks is not effective, taking antibiotics is not effective. A month later, Governor Walz comes out, talks about 74,000 Minnesotans dying. Later on, he went back to 29,000, and right around then, I put a different video out saying just the facts. And I said, I'm not buying 74,000 Minnesotans dying, I'm not buying 29,000. And then this one came out a month later, right around May 1st. This is a model that they're using. And it says on here, Minnesotans' model projects nearly 1,000 deaths a day in mid-July. Well, folks, that's next week. So far, we have less than, right around 1,500, of which all but 300 of them have occurred in people in long-term care facilities, in large part because the Department of Health participated in decisions that put people with active COVID-19 disease in the nursing homes. And I'm spreading misinformation. Of course I am. I don't know what to tell you. I just know this is wrong. We're in a bad place. My wife asked me the other day, Scott, why did 911 pull us together as Americans so much? And why is COVID-19 breaking us apart? I think physicians are part to blame. Scientists are. We've become so darn political. Physicians and scientists in the past are supposed to be above the fray. They're not. I have this odd set of hats I'm wearing because I'm the vice chair of the Health and Human Services Committee in the Senate, and I'm involved in policy discussions and involved in bills that deal with providing relief for COVID-19. And on the other hand, I've been a physician in the trenches for 35 years. So I try to connect the dots. I don't try to present myself to be something I'm not. I'm not an epidemiologist, but yes, I've taken epidemiology classes. I'm not an infectious disease doctor, but I take care of infectious disease every day. I just want to leave you with a couple of questions you could maybe ask yourself. Do we think it's okay for physicians to certify in death certificates that someone died of COVID-19, even if there was never a COVID-19 positive test obtained, even if there was never a COVID-19 test done, even if a COVID-19 test hadn't even been considered? And maybe the worst even if the family had no clue that the death certificate they received for their loved one was going to say COVID-19. What do we want to be doing there? In Minnesota, I think the Department of Health is taking care of business. Those are important questions. I'm sure there are naysayers out there that think that I'm getting exactly what I deserve. Fine. If it can happen to me, I think, frankly, that it could happen to anybody. It feels ugly. It feels like some of the people that disagree with me don't want to have a conversation. I've asked many of you to have conversations, and you've not been interested. So, reckless advice regarding comparisons between COVID-19 and the flu. Spreading misinformation, because I cried foul when I received a memorandum from the Department of Health on April 3rd, which directed me to a CDC link, which says clearly that you could have a patient suffering from other medical problems, wheelchair bound, severe stroke within the preceding year or two, no COVID-19 test ever done or ordered, and when that patient dies of pneumonia, it's a COVID-19 death. I cried foul. And I'm grateful that the Department of Health a week later tried to clarify things, and a month later clarified it further. But I'll say it again, the official people who write the coding Bible in this country said, if the provider documents suspected, possible, probable, or inconclusive, do not assign COVID-19. Thanks for listening. We better all stay engaged. Thank you.
All right, so we are back, right? So what you seen there was Minnesota Senator and medical physician Dr. Scott Jensen. Like Mr. Jensen is under investigation by the Minnesota Board of Medical Practice, they said, for allegedly spreading misinformation about COVID-19. Now, prior to me showing you that video, we're still talking about attacking black truths as lies. So I show you some things that are considered black truths, but people will discredit it and say they are lies because they have not substantiated. So I decided that maybe you may not have heard or even known about what Dr. Scott Jensen has tried to do and tell, and seeing some backlash because why? Going against the grain, right? He's telling the truth. He's telling not the story that wants to be out there. And so what you seen there was the how he revealed the investigation and how the board is focusing on what they deem as reckless advice, right? Remember, he's been a physician for 40 years. And that Senator Jensen, Scott Jensen, he's been comparing COVID-19 with the flu. And also he was revealing about how the CDC guidelines for completions on death certificates, right? And you've seen the interview I showed him when he had the interview with Chris Berg. That was back in April, that went viral based on the stuff that he was saying. And remember, the interview was like, had to interrupt, like, wait a minute, why would they be doing that, right? Right? Why would they be doing that? And he, in that part, he stayed on code, right? He didn't break all the code. He's breaking enough code for his own moral code of himself, but he did not reveal that. That's for you to decipher more into what he's saying, right? So again, it goes back to black truths. See, we can have the truth about something, but if it's not validated by the dominant society, the white society, the institutional society, then our truths cannot be true just because we know it, can prove it, but they can discredit it, just like what you're seeing that's happening here. And we see that, Dr. Senator Scott Jensen, he said he was ticked off about this, right? And he's probably retiring from the Senate at the end of his term. And that video that you got to see, the still part, that had been, it went viral and hit hit all the places that it was supposed to. And so what he talks about back in April, when all this had escalated about the COVID-19, and, the things he was talking about, he was relaying that information. You got to remember, he's also a politician. So in some sense, I think he knows the grand scheme to that. But then as a physician, he has an oath and something that he takes. So I guess he got caught in the middle. And again, a 40-year physician is now saying that he is spreading misinformation and reckless advice. Okay? Now, am I saying that what he's saying is fact? No, that's not what I'm saying. My example here is he's saying one thing and the others are saying another thing. So what is the truth here? Right? And all the things he laid out, he's not the only one. Those who were avid watchers over here, there's a couple other nurses and people who relayed a lot of other things too, right? So they just be discredited too as well, right? And he was talking about how they were inflating the COVID-19 death figures. He was saying that he was alleging that the CDC was telling doctors to list COVID cause of death when it's suspected but not confirmed by any kind of test taken. Right? And then he went on to Fox News. I had that one. I didn't want to make it too long, but he went on Fox News. He was criticizing the CDC guidelines, claiming that he said fear was what was getting in the way. It was the circulation of fear, and he believed it was to control people, right? And that he was suggesting also that doctors were doing this to get greater reimbursements from the government by, diagnosing people with the COVID-19. Remember, that's when it came out about the 19,000, 39,000, right? And so what happened is the information started to be replayed on what they say controversial or conspiracy websites like InfoWar, right? And QAnon, right? Those for those people who know about that, QAnon, right? And so according to what Jensen said, that the CDC told doctors that it would be acceptable, right, that on their death certificate as probable or presumed in absence of a positive test. So you could put probable, still get classified, and presumed, and still get the money, classification, death certificate, right? So with all this being said here, right, the thing is this a truth? Now here's a white person who's trying to say a truth, but he's being discredited and saying that what he's saying is not fact. Here's a man who's been doing his job for 40 years and also a politician, but some reason he's become reckless because he's not going along with the quota, status quo rather, right? And so the question becomes, see, a black truth can be discredited, but then a white person can be in the same category if you're not going along with the plan that somebody else is laying out. So what you have is a conflict, right? You have a conflict. Now, what I want to show here is what the whole humbug got into, right? This here is what got the whole scenario of picking up where Deshaun Jackson went. And again, not about the extortion. No, we're talking about a part when it talks about Israel, right? The children of Israel. And then Nick Cannon and Professor Griff did a show, and in that show, a conversation. So what we're going to focus on here is, what is an anti-Semitic? What's anti-Semitic? What is that? Right? Because there's a confusion in that. People not understanding what that is. Things have been said, and then after things have been said, people have discredited people based on what they say. So again, the pattern that I have laid so far is to show you that people can say and believe in what they know, and then another person can be discredited and say that that's not so, even though yet the proof is right there, but you'll discredit that and say, no, it ain't about what it says, it's about what we say. It's kind of like the dictionary. The dictionary means what we say. So check this out. We'll be right back. Check this out.
So the 6 people can sit in this room and decide everything that we experience as far as entertainment. We watching the movies, reading the magazines. 6 people.
Right.
I laid that out. It wasn't a Jewish conversation.
Right.
It was about the music industry. The first 20 minutes of the conversation, we was laughing, joking, dapping each other up, talking.
Right.
His girlfriend walked in. We were talking about David Mills now.
Right.
Who dropped dead on a movie set.
Right.
His girlfriend walks in, and his girlfriend's white and Jewish. Well, I'm from Roseville, Long Island. We don't have no experience with white people right there. So I'm like...
Except for Howard Stern.
Exactly. Exactly. So when she came and sat down, the complexion of the conversation changed. It became more... And I'm like...
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A couple of times he even pressed the pause button on the cassette.
Yeah, that privilege starts speaking. And
right. So now he had to change his tone because now the white Jewish girlfriend is sitting next to him.
Right.
And she's getting offended by me calling out the Cohens and the Moskowitz and the blacks and the...
Right.
And I'm like, okay, but still no hatred involved. I'm just laying the history out.
Yeah, we're just speaking facts.
When I finished the interview, he admitted and said to himself, you know something, this is the kind of stuff that can get you in a lot of trouble. And I'm like, now keep in mind now, I'm in my 20s.
Just like these conversations.
No, exactly. Exactly.
But fearless is. So, and you just saying what you're saying. You speaking facts.
Exactly.
There's no reason to be scared of anything when you're speaking the truth.
So I left that interview with what you just said, with that.
Right.
And he faxed it to the Village Voice in New York.
Right.
Front page blew up. It went out, and it's like Professor Griff, anti-Semitic, blah, 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 whatever. And when I first told Chuck, he said, so what? You told the truth. The truth is the truth.
Right.
Everybody's gung ho. Yeah, Griff dapping me
just
up.
what we saying right here.
Hoisting me up on their shoulders.
Yeah.
A week or two later, I'm the boogeyman. I'm the bad man. I'm the this, that, and the other.
Griff, we got to separate ourselves.
Exactly. And I didn't understand it from someone. Now, this is the painful part. From someone I grew up with, man, since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Right. Right.
How do you do that?
Right.
How do you sit in a room and have one of your friends tell you who you fought with, who you ate with, broke bread with?
Right.
You know, how do you do it? Then a group of brothers that I came up with, the S1Ws, who, you know, we did everything together.
Fact.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the Public Enemy thing was Chuck and Flav, who was actually signed. Then it was me and Terminator, the Public Enemy Live thing.
Right.
Constitutes Public Enemy. I brought the S1Ws.
Right, right.
So when you talk about the money situation, it was Chuck and Flav, of course, then me and Terminator, and then check this out.
Right.
Out of my little money, I cut it up and paid them.
Wow. So it wasn't about the bread at all.
It wasn't about the bread at all because Chuck said, 2 years in, we out. We said, cool, let's shake the industry up.
All right, so what you seen there was Nick Cannon and Professor Griff, and he was relaying the story that he was having a conversation, and he was laying out the fact of
so
trying to figure out what
the 6
Anthony
people
said, right?
Can sit in this room and decide everything that we experience as far.
And so the question became, after that went up, there was a lot of people who were upset. Backlash came. They said, in its entirety, was there things said in there that could have been sensitive to the Jewish people? I'm pretty sure it could have been, right? But in one sense, it's kind of like, well, I think they were talking more about white people than directly about Jewish. But the thing they did talk about, they talked about the bankers and they went through a whole litany of on that specific topic. And it's like, well, you're trying to figure out what does it mean to be an anti-Semitic? Is it the fact that one can speak the facts of history, or is it something that is specific and direct that is offensive? And so there's really no real clear, because everybody who you try to get to, talk on it, like if you get somebody who, again, as we BADOS, we can go in and, Semitic means language, people from the Arabian Peninsula, can be Ethiopian, Egyptians, Assyrians. There's even Hamitic people that is over in that area as well, Kush and the brothers and stuff like that, right? So does that really specify? Because it's a language. It's not actually a people, right? And so until you understand what the whole story is to that, then you might have a clear understanding. But I want y'all to hear this. And I'm not even sure, did you play the right clip? Because did he really talk about anti-Semitic on that? Yeah, I don't know if that was really what we was looking for there, right? Make sure you played the right. I don't know if you played the right one, man. I think you kind of missed that part, right? Did you miss it? You might have missed it. Try it again, huh? Try that again. Because I think you missed it. Try that again. Try that again. I think you missed it. I don't think he explained on that one. Did he explain that, y'all? I don't think he explained it. Let's see if that's
where we are today.
Well, let's break it down, and let's break it down in small bits where people can actually get it.
Right.
Like a lot of people that are coming into consciousness, where they are right now. I sat at the elders of the Dr. Benz and the John Henry Clarks and the Professor Jeffries, Professor Smalls, Shashi McIntyre, and a few other people I could mention. Now, I'm physically there, not YouTubing it.
There was no YouTube back then. Yeah.
You had to physically go there, write the notes, study.
Maybe get a VHS tape or something like
and
that.
if you had 5 of them in your, you making a whole lot of noise on the train. I'm saying.
Right.
All right, so to my understanding, now I want to thank Khalid El Hakim from the Black History 101 Mobile Museum. He has set up a talk with a rabbi.
Right.
And this is recently.
Right.
So, and I'm in front of a room full of Jewish people.
Right.
And I'm asking basic questions, and maybe you can help me out.
Right.
So let's look up the word anti-Semitic.
Right.
Who are the Semitic people? And then we're going to get to the public enemy thing.
Right.
So I looked up who is the Semitic people. And there's a list of Semitic people, and anyone can do this right now. You can look up who are the Semitic people, what are the Semitic languages.
Right.
Has absolutely nothing to do with any white people.
Right.
Not at all. So in order for me to be anti-Semitic, I'd have to be anti-black man, anti-black woman, anti-black people, anti-Africa, anti-all of the people.
Because the Semitic people
are black people. So
y'all get that clarity. We're going to say that again.
Now,
the Semitic people are black people.
So I cannot be anti-Semitic. Now, what do they really use the phrase anti-Semitic to do? That's the thing.
To divide us.
Exactly.
Right.
So they put this title on you, anti-Semitic, and then they neutralize you.
Right.
Separated me from the group.
Right.
Say he's a Jew hater. He hate white people. He hate gay people. He hate all white people with freckles and red hair, whatever.
Right.
And they put that on me, which I never said these things.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I just ran down the history given to me by my elders. And anybody could read this for themselves.
Right.
So it ain't a Professor Griff hating people thing.
Right.
Now, closer to what happened with the public enemy thing, the brother by the name of James Baum, one of the X1Ws in the group, gave me some information because he was in touch with the research department of the Nation of Islam in Boston.
Right.
Got the information, and we talk about the secret relationship between blacks and Jews.
Right.
It was a manual. It wasn't even a book then.
Right. Wow.
I got it. I went to Kinko's so I can get me a copy.
Right.
The brother recognized me. Oh, you that dude from Public Enemy, man.
Right.
For real. I said, yeah, bro, I got to get to this thing because I was the road manager, so I was responsible for everything. I gave it to him. The brother gave me a copy, but he made himself a copy also.
Yeah.
So that's a violation, but cool, bro. Whoever you are.
He wanted some information.
He wanted some information.
He was hungry. He was thirsty.
Exactly. Okay. When I seen the brother again, dude gave me a box of them. And I gave James back his. So I read it. So now, the spokespeople for the group, me and Chuck, we did all the interviews.
Right.
We sat down. We went to D.C. We were doing the interview that day, and it wasn't even my interview.
Right.
Chuck's interview, he didn't want to do it.
Right.
So I sat down with him. Now, mind you, I'm the Minister of Information.
Right.
I got 2 suitcases now.
Right.
I used to carry with 2 suitcases full of books.
Right, right.
And so I laid them all out on the table. So when I went into the interview, I was ready.
Right.
First question he asked is
just like this, how we just got to lay it out.
Exactly. Who controls the music industry? Well, what more am I supposed to say? You understand? I laid out the names, people, the organizations they belong to. I laid it out. Now, mind you, this is not coming from Professor Griffith. I wasn't hating nobody that day.
And was it in that statement? Was it just like was it white people, Jewish people, white supremacy? Like was it more just like you just kind of just you weren't saying a hateful statement. You were just saying this is who controls it.
I laid out the names.
Right. Oh, so you specifically
you
said people's names.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
People's names.
At that time, because this was what, 80, 89, 90?
Yeah, about 80, 89, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you just said people's names. And
I laid it out, and I showed them the books.
Right.
And I looked it up and showed it to them. This paragraph says this. These people control film industry, TV, music industry.
And as we know right now.
These are the players.
when we talk about media, there's 6 major corporations that control all of media. This is beyond the music industry, and this is, you were laying that construct down back then and naming names, calling them to the table. But even as we sit right here today, there's 6 major corporations that control everything that is delivered to you as we speak.
All right, so we are back, right? So that was the one that explained the anti-Semitic. The one before that was a gist of it, but not the entirety. So I want to apologize for that, but we got it all out, right? So that is the question. Anti-Semitic. Can black people be anti-Semitic? And what is the true meaning of the word anti-Semitic? So there's a lot of people say that, again, as you heard in that interview there, Professor Griff said he laid out the publications from the information. He was sitting down, talked with rabbis and so forth. And what he laid out is kind of like Senator Dr. Scott Jensen. That is not what they wanted you to follow according to what they say and not what you know, right? And in this case, him with that type of information would not be good for their business. And, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation or has seen somebody in the situation when they got caught in a lie, or you know the truth of them. And when you come around, they kind of like, they don't stay around you. They don't look you in the eye. They kind of get out because you know who they are, right? And so in this case, he would be bad for business because why? He has information and he did his due diligence. And that information seems to be taboo because why? What is the real reasoning for that, right? And so we as black people can't say what anti-Semitic is, right? Right? We can't do that. So I seen this here. I got 2 parts to this. Okay? And so I want you to hear this and then I come back after that, right? Check this out. Be right back.
I've been stuck here. How old am I? 45. I've been stuck here 37 years. 37. Okay. Because it was in my own household, where my father would often talk about the genetic inferiority of white people. Meanwhile, you married a white woman and had a child. Now, as my father would say, my conditioning has been conditioned. We've all heard that before. But for all of you out there that make it your business to scream from the mountaintops about genetic inferiorities of one group versus another group, what is your aim? Now, with white supremacy, which has basically infested the planet, that was their aim. As white supremacists from all groups, whether it was Catholics, whether it was Jews, whether it was Nazis, whatever group you subscribed to and were still a white supremacist, your goal in pointing out genetic inferiorities through science was to make the world not have love or see that group as a human being so that you could take advantage of them and harm them and rape them and kill them and whatever to them. So in reverse now, where you have people talking about Europeans and their genetic inferiority, what is your goal? I don't play.
So that was Ebro of 97, right? And you heard him talk about the fact that he came to the United States at 8 years old. He's 45, so he's been in this paradigm, in this matrix for 37 years. He says that his father used to teach him about the inferiority of the white man. Ebro said, well, he kind of questioned the fact that, okay, you're saying this, but yet his mother is a white woman. So, like, well, if you understood that what you're talking, then why would you go do that and then produce me, right? And so, you know, he goes on and he talks about, well, you know, there's a lot of rhetoric, supposedly, that people out here talking about the inferiority of white people and the superiority of the black race. And he believes there's an aim by black people as if like black people are in some kind of position to do something to white folks. And to ease your mind, black folks' mind is not even on that. See, the position is black folks have been in the position for those who are BADOS in this land are just trying to get to a point where they're trying to survive. They're trying to be acclimated in, right? So to me, it sounds like a person who talks about that, what is your aim? It's been like somebody, again, when I did the video that talked about what Thomas Jefferson talked about in preparation for the day that they believed that we would come attack them. So it's kind of like the conscience of white people feel as if like somehow black people are strategizing for their demise. And so using superiority of genetics and mitochondrial DNA and melanin talk, right? Saying we're now, as a matter of fact, even Terry Crews talking about, so okay, when you get rid of white supremacy, now we're going to have black supremacy. Why would you say something like that? Why do you even think that? In the position we've been in, and you see that our people, regardless of the condition that people have been treated, they still show a side of love unbeknownst that the other side doesn't show. So regardless of, let's say, if somebody was to think that, but then there's a nice portion of our nation of people who would fight and jump in front of that bullet for you. So I think that's just more of somebody's conscience speaking about what you know you do and think about in the confines of smoke rooms, think tanks, and, you know, picnics and those conversations that they have. Because the same ideology that was imparted on another people was to embolden them, to give them confidence, to make them superior. But the problem is, again, it comes to the question, can you have two truths? Somebody's wrong and somebody's right, right? You can't have two truths, right? So what we trying to get to the crux is the anti-Semitic, right? What is the anti-Semitic? What is that? I think this here, the individual who's going to say here is Jewish, mother was in the camps, and he's speaking because he has the authority to speak on it, right? So I want you to hear this, and I'll be right back. Check this out.
And add the gem, Rosenberg, because in the 19th century, 18th and 19th century, people grouped the Jews in a Semite group.
Well, so that's the part that's been frustrating me, is now there's been this conversation, which, Ebro, I liken it to like a little kid who's having an argument and starts changing the semantics of the argument. People are complaining about anti-Semitism, which everyone knows means Jew hatred. Rather than have the conversation about Jew hatred, they want to have a semantic argument about the word anti-Semitism. I can't be an anti-Semite because the Semites are black and I'm black. Why do Jews want to be? Why are Jews Semites? Well, to Ebro's point, Jews are Semites because that grouping was put on them by supremacists who said, we don't want to think that, we don't want people to think we hate them for their religious ideology. That's not strong enough. Let's group the Jews as Semites, so they're part of a darker race that we can claim is inferior.
And infesting white people.
And thus the term anti-Semitism. So when you're using that as a reason to say, I can't be an anti-Semite because I'm black, fam, that term was foisted onto Jews to make them different from the rest.
And add the gem in there, Rosenberg, because in the 19th century, 18th and 19th century, people grouped the Jews in a Semite group.
Well, so that's the part that's been frustrating me, is now there's been this conversation, which, Ebro, I liken it to like a little kid who's having an argument and starts changing the semantics of the argument. People are complaining about anti-Semitism, which everyone knows means Jew hatred. Rather than have the conversation about Jew hatred, they want to have a semantic argument about the word anti-Semitism. I can't be an anti-Semite because the Semites are black and I'm black. Why do Jews want to be? Why are Jews Semites? Well, to Ebro's point, Jews are Semites because that grouping was put on them by supremacists who said, we don't want to think that, we don't want people to think we hate them for their religious ideology. That's not strong enough. Let's group the Jews as Semites, so they're part of a darker race that we can claim is inferior.
And infesting white people.
And thus the term anti-Semitism. So when you're using that as a reason to say, I can't be an anti-Semite because I'm black, fam, that term was foisted onto Jews to make them different from the rest. Semite, because the Semites are black and I'm black. Why do Jews want to be? Why are Jews Semites? Well, to Ebro's point, Jews are Semites because that grouping was put on them, Semite, because the Semites are black and I'm black. Why do Jews want to be? Why are Jews Semites? Well, to Ebro's point, Jews are Semites because that grouping was put on them.
Okay, so you heard it directly come out of the mouths, right? You heard it directly come out of the mouth that anti-Semitic typically means Jew hatred, right? That's what they said the term means. But he gave you some history as to how that term became foisted, as he said, foisted upon them. That the Jews was put in a group. So, not naturally, not originally, but put in a group, right? So that they could be with a darker race, so that they could be denigrated and stigmatized. And Ebro said, infesting the white race, right? So they want to make it about religion. So there you go. So when you break that down, what are they saying? So does Semitic mean black people? What, based on what he just said, does Semitic mean black people? Based on Rosenberg, who is Jewish, his mother's Jewish, she was in the camp, he knows. So what he just said is that that term is used, given by white supremacists to denigrate, stigmatize, and put them in a dark group. So that means originally not, right? Okay. All right, that's what he said, right? I didn't say that. That's what he just said. Right? So that might be the first time you heard someone explain an anti-Semite. So when they said that they can't be anti-Semitic because they're black. Is that true? Now again, somebody is using the term as a misnomer. It's out of its original understanding. It's been colloquial to being this, but in its etymological, it's I guess you could say definition too. A Semite don't mean what they say. And when they say anti, it just means that it's Jew hatred. Now, with that being said, then going back to Deshaun Jackson's saying that in that page and saying that the children of Israel must mean that the children of Israel have to be people of color. Right? Right? All right. So that came out of authentic from their mouth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you somebody who has been, you know, he's a BADOS by birth, who's now become an Israeli citizen. He's done got his, he's been classified now as a Jewish. And so they went and got him to speak on behalf of what was going on. Just in case you didn't hear this, I want you to hear this. I'll be right back.
You know what the situation is amongst the African American community. There's not a lot of leadership, and so they gravitate to a leadership factor that help keep people off the streets, right? So Farrakhan is seen as one of the leaders in the African American community, and I think there's a lack of leadership right now in the community. So people are gravitating to what they see as the leadership of that community. But I do think, with me being in a position where I am, where being an African American Jew who's learning at a high level, I think there's a narrative shift that's happening. I think there's a time where there's a situation where, there's an education component that needs to happen now, especially for the next generation to understand, like, this is, we have to figure out a way to now, somewhat teach the next generation on, positivity.
You really seem like you can be somebody with all that's going on, and within racism and anti-Semitism, that really could bridge the gap between the Jewish and the African American communities. That seems like something that you can really be a big help for.
That's the idea, bro. That's the idea, because right now I think there's a lack of leadership within the African American community. The ideal of love and kindness resonates throughout the entire Torah, right? Without the entire scriptures, right? There's more similarities with the African Americans and Jewish people than they are differences. And I went over a few of them. The Holocaust and the transatlantic slave trade. There's post-traumatic stress between both from those events. You think about all the persecution is always the Jews or the blacks or the colored or whatever the title was. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. They both are. There's so much similarities here. I don't understand why there's so much, because you know what it is? It's lack of education. And so that's what frustrates me the most, because now it's a matter of educating to clean up all this diffusion and hatred, to get rid of this anti-Semitic stuff.
Oh no, we got to do that again. Hit that for me one more time. Remix!
You know what the situation is, that amongst the African American community, there's not a lot of leadership. And so they gravitate to a leadership factor that help keep people off the streets, right? So Farrakhan is seen as one of the leaders in the African American community. And I think there's a lack of leadership right now in the community, so people are gravitating to what they see as the leadership of that community. But I do think, with me being in a position where I am, where, being an African American Jew who's learning at a high level, I think there's a narrative shift that's happening. I think there's a time where there's a situation where, there's an education component that needs to happen now, especially for the next generation to understand, like, this is, we have to figure out a way to now, somewhat teach the next generation on, positivity.
You really seem like you can be somebody with all that's going on, and within racism and anti-Semitism, that really could bridge the gap between the Jewish and the African American communities. That seems like something that you can really be a big help for.
That's the idea, bro. That's the idea, because right now I think there's a lack of leadership within the African American community. The ideal of love and kindness resonates throughout the entire Torah, right? Without the entire scriptures, right? There's more similarities with the African Americans and Jewish people than they are differences. And I went over a few of them. The Holocaust and the transatlantic slave trade. There's post-traumatic stress between both from those events. You think about all the persecution, is always the Jews or the blacks or the colored or whatever the title was. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. You look at this situation and they both are Semitic people. They both are. There's so much similarities here. I don't understand why there's so much, because you know what it is? It's lack of education. And so that's what frustrates me the most, because now it's a matter of educating to clean up all this diffusion and hatred, to get rid of this anti-Semitic.
See, sometimes, again, you're sent to do a job. You're supposed to convince that, you don't have enough education. They sent me to say these words to you guys. I've been studying over here. I'm one of you guys. And what happens? The truth falls out. Now, you might have heard it, you may didn't hear. Somebody was so angry when he said what he said, you hear a book slammed to the ground. Somebody slammed the book on the ground. Because just like in that page, it said something, that seed is going to grow. See, they brought that out. Right? They brought that out. And now people are inquisitive, people are researching, people are digging. And the truth is just going to reveal itself. So, again, you heard somebody gave you the clearest understanding of what an anti-Semite is. A group who was put into a position, dark groups, to put and hoisted them in a dark group so that they could be denigrated and stigmatized like black people, right? But that's not originally who they are. But the term itself is using that to denote Jew hatred. But the truth of the matter is, black people are Semitic people. Amari Stoudemire told you that. Rosenberg said that. Right? And then the conversation that was had with the Nick Cannon situation. Right? Now, again, everything that they said in the entirety of that, there's some other. We're talking about that part. Attacking black truth as lies. But the problem is, the truth is straight. It does not go left nor right. It's going to always be what it is. You can deny it. You don't have to accept it. But it is going to be what it is. So, ain't nothing else need to be said. I don't have to say nothing else. If you didn't get it, you didn't get it. But the point is, everybody try to discredit when we say a truth and try to make what we say is to be a lie. But anytime, as they say, to sit down and have that conversation, no, everybody say, well, we're playing with semantics. No, we don't play with semantics. We play with the truth. Can we have the conversation about the truth of the matter? Or is it the fact that, again, as I said, somebody wins and somebody loses? The thing is, people in our position, what do we got to lose in that conversation? The other people, you got everything to lose. Because why? That is what one has been fixated as the identity who you claim to be. Right? But according to what he said, that's not exactly what that's about. That's something entirely different. So what are we to believe now? Since that's out here now, those over here done heard it. Now what are we supposed to think now? Well, tell you, man, truth is funny, man. Truth is real funny. Right? The truth is so funny to the fact that people will deny it with a straight face and convince you, even though you see it, that that's not exactly what you think you see, right? You remember the other show I did? I told y'all something in that video. I talked about the 1936 with Jesse Owens. And then they said, remember in the, there was an article. Do I got the article? I think I got that article, right? Let me show y'all that. Remember this? Remember what said, did Hitler shake hands with BLAK 1936 Olympic hero Jesse Owens? And in that article, it talked about that it did, that they dismissed it. They gave somebody who was credible, who was there, who validated the situation and said that it did. Now again, this isn't here to try to make somebody special. The whole point to this is when black people say something as true, they always make it a lie, right? They make it out to be a damn lie. So the question becomes this. This is what it comes to. Is this a lie too? Oh, that's not it. That's not it, y'all. That's not it. What are you doing? That's not it. What are you doing? What happened to that? Okay, what happened to that? Yeah, you did the wrong thing, sir. Would you wake up, sir? Thank you. There you go. All right, you ready now? Okay, so is this what this is? Did this really happen? Right, that's not it either. What? Hello? Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, boy, you sleeping over there. Can you get it right? All right, get it right this time. All right, so based on what you see there in that article that came out in August of 2009, and it had a question. And in that article, it talked about that something had existed. Let me show you something. What do you see? Is that a drawing or is that a picture? Is that a drawing or is that a picture? Right? But according to what was said, it didn't happen. Right? But Jesse Owens said it did happen. Hold on. Jesse Owens said it didn't happen. Jesse Owens said it happened. And somewhere that was out there. Don't know where it came from, but it was out there. You've seen it. Right? So I don't know if somebody reenacted and drew that or not. I don't know if that's what happened. But, so again, can somebody deny the fact of a truth because it benefits them? Then tell the truth because it makes something entirely different. I understand their position with him. We understand that, especially from our position. We understand that well. So, again, the question becomes, people using misnomers and terms that don't really apply to them. And then there's a mystery in the world to whatever happened to the people that was in the book. Where they had a person who was considered to be a monster. Well, he is, based on what we've been told and what the history states is. And he said some things that has come to light. And one question after another has came up, and it's like, damn, where are this coming from? Is this coming from up high? Is this spiritual being sent down? Only you can read that interpretation of that, right? Only you can do that. So, again, this is Black Minds News. I want to thank everybody coming here, clicking on the video. Again, we're not here to belittle anybody. We're not here to hate on nobody. We're the news. We're just going to tell it as we see it. We dispense it. Sometimes you got to spit the bone from the fish. There's nothing to be upset about. The word said you cannot hide the truth. You cannot put a basket over it. Eventually it's going to shine. So as things keep manifesting and doing what it does, more truth will reveal itself in its appointed time. And I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds. When you see your brother, greet your brother. What's good, brother? What's good, brother? See your sister. What's good, sister? What's good, brother? If you can't do that much, at least give the universal nod. You know how we do. Huh? We living in a day and time where a lot of people are seeking for our demise. Things are falling out, coming from the ethers and spiritual. And people are trying to find ways to clog these holes. They want to make that your truth never be a truth. What we say is the only truth that can be, regardless to what evidence you can produce, what you can show and prove. It's not about that. It's about what somebody say. But if you need the validation, you need it. If not, well, you was once lost, but you're about to be found. So again, this is the most hated show on the Black Corner YouTube. Until the next show, y'all. To the next show.